Hello, I'm Janelle Shala, and in this video I'm discussing malachite. Malachite's a copper ore, and like most copper ores, it's green. We mostly know it and buy it as these beautiful polished decorative pieces that have the concentric banding or layering of light green with dark green. This is a tumblestone, obviously, and I have to say it's not as readily available as it used to be, but I'll come to that later. Malachite is arguably one of the most important minerals in the history of humankind. It was the first mineral to be mined and smelted to create a metal, that being copper, obviously. But the beginning of that led to experimentation and to the Bronze Age, which entirely changed the direction of our history. It's been mined for over 6,000 years, the first mines being in the Sinai Desert, but it was mined in other places as well. Notably, the Great Ore Mine in West Wales, which is, it's 4,000 years old, I believe, that mine. So we were using, even here, we were using copper and smelting it from a very early point in history. It's also important as a healing stone. It's been used probably longer than this, but we do know it was used in ancient Egypt. There's a papyrus called the Ebers Papyrus that was written around 1500 BC. It's probably copied from earlier texts, so it may be as old as 1800 BC or even earlier. In the Ebers Papyrus, there are no fewer than 39 references to the use of malachite in treatment. And in these treatments, malachite is almost exclusively used for infections of the eye or eye problems. There's a really good reason for this, because malachite is actually antimicrobial and antibacterial. The Egyptians were very prone to eye infection, so they even ground it up and they used it as one of the eyeshadows, one of the colors they used around their eyes. It wasn't the most popular, but it was one of the ones that was used. It was also used as a pigment, so it occurs when you see green, strong green in any of the Egyptian paintings. It's probably malachite. It's had a bad reputation recently. That's another thing I'm going to get to in a minute, but it also forms in a number of different ways, and I'd like to share some of those formations with you. This is botryoidal malachite, which means it forms as that literally means a bunch of grapes, and you can kind of see the grape-like formation of it. It's interesting if you slice into these, you get the layering that you get with the pieces I just showed you, or the piece like the tumblestone I just showed you. Unfortunately, it's becoming more and more difficult to get hold of because most of the really beautiful malachite is mined in what is now known as the Democratic Republic of Congo. It used to be Zaire. And they have so much unrest and instability in that region that most of the mining has gone completely out the window. And the reason that they have the unrest is because they're so mineral rich that everybody wants a cut of it. So wars abound. Not good, but we can still get some, and there are malachites that form in other ways as well. Malachite's an important healing stone as far as I'm concerned. It has three main properties. It's anti-inflammatory, it's antimicrobial, and it's also very balancing. So any problems with balance of the immune system, balance of the hormones, balance of emotions, malachite can help with that. It's anti-inflammatory in that it's being copper, it draws off heat. And heat is inflammation. So if you have inflammation of the joints, like arthritis, it can help to draw that off. It's also known as the midwife stone because it helps with, it dampens down the pain of labor. It also dampens down the pain from periods, so very good for women. This is another formation, and this is a bit more readily available. This is a fibrous version. It's very unusual to look at, and I shouldn't say readily available because it's kind of rare, but it's not as difficult to get as the layered mineral that comes out of Democratic Republic of Congo. So you can use it by holding it, having it next to the skin, and this is where I'm going to get into the bad press it's got recently. I've had a number of people contacting me about malachite, being really fearful because they've been told that malachite is toxic and that you can absorb the toxicity through your skin. And I'm sorry whoever's been putting this out and about, but it's absolute rubbish. Malachite, we don't usually put it directly into water when we're making a gem essence, and that's because it's stable, but it's not as stable as one of the silicates. So usually we avoid putting those directly in water. That doesn't mean it's toxic. The only time you can possibly be harmed by it is either if you grind it up and eat a lot of it, which I certainly don't recommend, or if you're grinding it and you inhale the powder from it, because that can cause problems with the lungs. Malachite is, as I've said, antimicrobial. It's fine against the skin. They've been making jewelry out of it for years. It used to be in the days of the ancient Greeks and the Romans. It was considered to be very good for protection of children, was usually put on their cradles. And that practice went right through to the Middle Ages. It was also considered to be very highly protective against the evil eye because of the layering. They used to carve an eye out of it sometimes. That was ancient Greek mainly. But there were a number of other things, other practices. It's been used right through. And, you know, let's face it, they wouldn't be making jewelry if people were going to drop dead from wearing something like this. So ignore all the fear-based stuff out there. Malachite's really important in healing, and it's completely safe. I'm going to finish by showing you a piece of mine which sadly, you're not going to find anything like this again. I haven't even lent it. Well, I may change my mind, but at the moment I haven't lent it to be videoed. But it's a slice of a stalactite because that's one of the other ways malachite forms. So if I hold it up as close as I can to the camera, it's a cross-section of a stalactite, and you can see the layering of it. It's absolutely beautiful. I think you'll be able to find malachite tumblestones if you look. It's just the larger pieces and the carved pieces that are becoming more and more difficult to get hold of. But I strongly recommend it for your healing kit.